Well, thanks. This is the moment of thank you, Kate, thank you, Simon and Bill, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure, and already I had a very good day yesterday because Bill took me in the car to see a lot of the projects already building up on the Ridgeway, and we had a great day. It was real good energy, but you will see later. It's a great opportunity to share ideas. I always love to. We have a long working relationship, Bill, Simon, and I, which lasts already more than 12 years, I think, and we always find each other in subjects on landscape, on producing work, creating new international work. So this is an ongoing story, and I'm happy to share some ideas and some practices from our festival, Oerol. Myself, I'm artistic director for this festival now for 7 years. I have a background of visual arts, and I even have a long history with the Knee-High Theatre. That's almost 20 years ago. Yeah, I have a background as a visual artist, and I got into theatre and site-specific theatre, which is exciting to do. Something about my speech, my program. What can you expect? I would like to first introduce the festival a bit, so you can enjoy a bit the ideas of Kate and other people. I will do that by 2 short films of the last festival, and then I would like to put a focus on more special projects, which are more related to the themes I think we will speak about today. The themes about the role of art and the role and the interaction of art, landscape, heritage, and audiences. That's, I think, the main focus for me to share some projects. But first, some facts and figures before we start some films. The festival of Oerol is situated on an island which is called Terschelling, and that's a very international name, Terschelling. It's situated in a UNESCO World Heritage Area in the Wadden Sea, which is in the north of Holland, and it runs from the north of Holland to the north of Germany to the north of the west of Denmark. You will see some pictures later. So it's an island of about 30 kilometers wide, 4 kilometers high. There's 4,500 people living there, including myself. And in the festival, which lasts 10 days, there's 55,000 people coming over, visitors. So it's a real invasion of audiences and people who like to enjoy art and nature. The festival already exists for 33 years, so next year 34. And I think this is also a key thing to understand why we can do what we can do, because there's a long experience, and we've taken a lot of small steps to get where we are now. These 55,000 people, they all buy, together they buy 100,000 tickets, because a lot of the theater program is ticketed. So that's a huge amount of tickets being sold, and that's also the way, more or less, the festival is financed. I'm not to speak about finances, but it's still quite unique, especially for Holland. There's no other place, no theater, which has such a background of support. The festival has, in these 33 years, has made a strong development from starting as a street art festival, street theater festival. It developed quite quickly to site-specific festival with a lot of projects site-specific, and now the latest development is landscape theater. Projects which are really dedicated or inspired by the landscape. In Europe we speak a lot with other festivals, so later you will hear some talks of Françoise Léger, whom we work together with also. I think it's good just to have a short 4-minute film about the theater program, and then I'll come back to explain a bit more. So, thank you.
I started the creation 1 year ago. Directly after my technical visit here, I came with a lot of inspiration to the studio, even that the piece was not created for this place. So something about landscape and about nature stay in the piece from the first day we started to create it. And then you put this piece on stage, but you never really felt or saw how it would be, if it really will be in the place I was inspired from. So in this case, we came back here. And to see that it works was a big step, an important step for me.
We hebben nu 5, 6 voorstellingen gehad en dan ga je de vrijheden ontdekken. En dan ga je proberen net even een stapje verder te gaan, kijken waar nog meer interactie met andere spelers zit, waar je nog meer diepgang in kunt leggen. Hele subtiele kleine dingetjes, maar die helpen je net even om het fris te houden. Ook voor mezelf, maar ook weer voor het publiek, zodat ze nog meer lagen gaan zien in het spel en dat de totaalervaring dan wat completer wordt. Dat is magisch.
The dancers walking on the beach where the conditions are sometimes very, very strong. No? It could be a very cold wind, or the floor is not stable, so you don't have the same way of working with your weight of your own body. So there is some parts that I'm changing from day to day. It's opportunity, no, to grow with these shows. So I think every day is a very different. It's not a very different piece because it's the same piece, but the details are maybe more deep.
So that was just a kaleidoscopic view of several of the propositions, which can be completely different, but all of them have in common that they are really site-specific. They are, and especially the project on the beach. I think that was a very good example. That was a project which was not finished when it arrived, and then they worked during the festival to each day in the different weather conditions to develop the piece more and more. So we had it was a real strong experience for dancers, but also for audiences. These are this impression was about these performances which are ticketed. So these 36 projects which will be there for 10 days of the festival. And often they play 2 times a day, and almost every performance is sold out. So people are really eager to follow the project, and even though sometimes the project is very new. You saw the circus project. This was in the festival because it was a very young group of people, their first real experience with audiences. And the guy in Dutch was talking about that each day they could develop and respond on what happened. So it's also a wide range of established artists, from very beginning artists, upcoming artists, till established artists. Then another focus on the festival we call the expeditie, which is more our laboratory. It's 20 places spread out over the island, and each place there's an artist or a group of artists who really design a project which is more or less, you can visit it all day. It's not a performance, it's something you can pass by, and I think there's a big, so I have to look for words, sorry. There's a big similarity between what you try to do with the Ridgeway and what we do in the expedition. I think it's commissions, relatively small-scale commissions, and people start to work and to develop work on the theme of landscape. And we have a big theme on the festival, which is called Sense of Place. I'll get back to that later, but the importance of a connection between where you perform or where you construct a project and why should you do it there. These are our main questions. So we show a little bit of a film of that. This expedition project, you saw this thing in the dunes with the sand going down. Especially that was one of the laboratory projects where we invited the artist not to come with an idea in advance. We invited 5 artists to come over to do a workshop and to create a project only with the materials and the ideas they find on the island. And the knowledge and the history and the materials on the island. So this was quite new because normally artists come and already have lots of ideas. Now we ask them, put them aside and start investigating. And this was a very nice project because they really were thinking about the question how dunes do. There's a lot of dunes and they walk, they move on the island. So they want to make a project which speaks about that, and so they invented this thing that you could put in sand, and the sand was blown away, and you could, after a couple of days, you could see already what it did, what wind did, what activity did, and it also was like a Japanese garden, very beautiful installation. This picture is also an important project we're working on now. So I mentioned just that one. It's a project by, as you know, a big part of Holland is underneath sea level. So we have a lot of questions about what we do with water, how we manage the water, what we do with dikes. And after the big flooding in 1953, I think, or somewhere like that, there was a big delta idea of making dikes and keep the water out. But now there's recent, it's not good to just keep the water out. You have to play with nature because the water is not only your enemy, you can play with it. So now there's a lot of thinking about constructing new kinds of protections, which we call soft dikes. So this is a project which is really investigating a necessity from society to protect ourselves, to see if you can work with scientists and artists to find new ways of constructing these soft dikes. So it's quite a big project where we use old techniques, willow toes, bending willow toes, and so let the sea make new dikes itself, but also to add an artistic vision on it. Just for you, this is the island. On the south side, you see there is where we are planning to create this new project with like a Mondrian painting made out of willow structures to create a new area just before the dike to slow the water to come in. So that's in a few words the idea. I can speak about it more later. This is another nice example. We work a lot together with the forest company who own a lot of the protected areas. So they also are constantly doing things in the landscape to keep it dynamic. So they had a project where they had to scrape off a top layer of the soil. Otherwise you get, in 100 years, you have only one sort of plant. So they try to have a dynamic, also to have pioneering plants again. They dug off from a certain area the top, but they had to put it somewhere else. And then we were in discussion, where should you put it? What can you do with it? And then we worked together with a group of architects, landscape architects, artists. And we had an idea to create, on the top of an old garbage belt, to create a new mountain, which is also a new site. All this soil was taken up there, and we just added how you put it there. And so it became a new amphitheater. And in fact, it didn't cost anyone something extra. So it was even the story is more detailed, because they needed us to get permission to put the soil on top of it, because it had to have a purpose. They couldn't just dump it; it had to have a purpose. So it's a quite unique collaboration, and we're looking in the future for collaborating more. Well, this is another project you might have been talking about. This was we invited Robert Wilson, the American artist, to come over, and he was really fascinated by the landscape. So in fact he designed a walk for the audience, and he designed a walk of 4 hours. There were no actors, there was just the audience itself was sent out on a special route, but the route was marked with a very strong beginning moment in which you had like a real special mindset to go and make this route, and he called it slow walking. You had to walk slowly, and there was a whole direction to keep the pace slow. So suddenly you found yourself in a landscape you might already know, but suddenly it was a completely different experience, and a very strong experience. And then at the end, after this 3-hour walk, it was from one side of the island to the other one, and there was another image. So people are still speaking about it. It's quite a strong but simple project, in fact, because it's the audience who did it. You might know this, you might have seen this. Might be nice to know that, it was already an idea by Pierre Sauvageot to work with Balinese scarecrow objects, and then when he was on the island we had a long talk, and I more or less challenged him to make like a very big project out of it, like a big composition in the landscape. And so he went, 1 year they prepared 20 instruments, and they did a lot of tests during the festival. There was audience, and they reacted like this, like that on the project. Then he took it home and worked on it a year and premiered it in France, but 2 years later we had it, the full version here, and you might have seen it here. It's one of these examples how you can combine real intriguing art with changing a space and inviting an audience which is not necessarily an art audience. So then I show you just where we are now in our development. There's many examples, but it's always nice to see them. So I was speaking about this Mondrian landscape, and last year we did like a tryout with that. Here you see this is what we already did last year on a big beach. With a working group of students and even with audiences, we worked on bending these things and putting them in a place, and it's still there to see. We could do it for a couple of months, just like a research of what it does, and it was a very beautiful image, but it's also working directly in a couple of months. There's some change you can see. There were a lot of, we organized a symposium around it, so a lot of people, also scientists and people from civil parties, when they see examples like that, everybody can start thinking further. So that's what I want to finish with. I think a festival is a very good opportunity to play, to invest, to try things, even very serious matters. You can use the force of the temporarity, that it's not permanent, you can play with it, you can be like a laboratory. And that's what we like to be the next years, a real laboratory of, well, new forms of landscape theater art. And I think what I saw yesterday, there's some of the projects we have in common. So that's it. Okay.